Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. This podcast is being sponsored by Get Loopy. On episode 41, you can hear the story of Isabel, the co-founder and CEO. Get Loopy, get a 20% discount off your first order. GetLoopy.com. Take it from the Ironwoman. Again, we have a very special person, a special guest on the episode. It's Pooja from Bangalore in India. And we met many years ago. I think it was in 2012 when I visiting her father and we went to a conference and Pooja was organizing a conference for us. So welcome. I'm very honored to have you here, Pooja. Yeah. So who is Pooja who will be joining us today? I know she's an entrepreneur. She has a lot of experience, but we want to hear from her. How did you get where you are today?
Hi, Susan, and thank you so much for having me on the show today. It's an honor to be here. So my name is Pooja Iyer, and I live in Bangalore, India. It's fantastic to kind of, look at this whole global network that we're a part of, and you're sitting there and I'm here in India and we're having this conversation. So as you rightly mentioned, I'm an entrepreneur. I am the founder and CEO of a company called ASPIYER. I'm a career advisor and I work with students to kind of help them get a sense of the right career choices and the ideal courses that they can study to kind of get to that path. So I work as a career guidance specialist primarily.
It's interesting. And we need you because you said that a lot of people go into the wrong, we don't want to say the wrong career, but maybe they choose the wrong college classes. And then what do you do with those?
So statistics have shown, Susan, that almost 63% of people are actually unhappy with the jobs that they're doing. Now, this could, of course, have various reasons, and it could also be related to, the kind of job or the boss or something like that. But sometimes it's also because many people end up, just following a certain path because they think, okay, maybe it's going to lead somewhere, or maybe you kind of say, okay, I need a job that's going to pay the bill, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Each of us have certain aptitudes, certain skills, and our personality is a certain way. And when we actually have like assessments and psychometric tests that we do to study and identify what these are for individuals, correct? And then we match these qualities to the right career choice. Okay. Now, this not only helps a person identify the right career path, but then also take the right courses to get there, right? And that's where we come in. So both in terms of helping them identify what would be a potential career choice and identifying the path to get there is where we can actually provide assistance to students.
That's important. I mean, I feel like sometimes when you ask students, they go into a direction maybe the parents would go or the parents want them to go, and then they realize, oh, that's not what I want. Or sometimes we hear of, I think I heard of somebody, I want to be an architect, and then they realize how much it is involved that it's not really what they want. So they
No, absolutely. No, this is very true. So what I also do with students is we go through an immersive experience. Okay. So I take them over a few weeks through a discovery or exploratory journey, because the thing is that what happens is sometimes you may say, okay, I want to become a doctor, correct? But if you actually go and spend a few hours in an emergency room, right, it may completely change your perspective, right? The pressures are really high. What you need to do is really quick, correct? So while sometimes you could be watching Grey's Anatomy and think that, that looks so nice, let me become a doctor, right?
Yeah.
But practically when you have to put yourself into those shoes, and with multiple professions, right? You could want to become a data scientist. Now everyone's talking about data and technology. That's something of the future. So if you think, okay, this is what I want to do, but you actually have to sit in front of that system and pore over vast amounts of data day in and day out to kind of understand patterns and make connections out of it, right? But is that what you really want to do? Are you someone who can actually sit in front of that system the whole day? Or do you want to be outdoors, right? What are the things you want to do? So, and that's why I was saying that it's so important to even match a personality type. Because if you're someone who's a bit of an explorer at heart, are you someone who's introverted and like doing things yourself? So if we can actually identify these things, it really helps then determine the best career choice for you.
Yeah, that's important because we don't want to be, your number, 63% of people are unhappy. Maybe that's even higher. And we know we spend a lot of time at work, even though now with the COVID, we might be locked down, but it's important that we do what we like.
No, very true. We spend 1/3 of our life at work, correct? Yeah. So considering that, we might as well be doing something we like, correct? And it's also, see, the practical issue, and what I'd like to kind of emphasize on is, it's not just about following your passion, okay? Because following your passion is one thing, and while we should all do that, there is a practical aspect to it that we have to earn money at the end of the day, right? So how is it that you can actually match your passion and look at a good earning potential, correct? And see, we're all moving towards what we call a gig economy, Susan, right? So in the olden days, not olden days, but if you would kind of look back in that sense, there used to be freelancers, correct? Now, freelancers are someone who work, so suppose you're a writer, and then you probably freelance and you write an article for the Forbes or for another magazine, maybe for National Geographic, and you kind of send, or blogs, correct? But with the gig economy, a gigger is basically someone who will bring in different aspects of their personality. So if they like writing, they could be writing to someone. If they like photography, you could be sending pictures to an automobile company of cars that you like, right? If you like, you could be a YouTuber on the side. So today we have an option of doing multiple things, correct? You don't have to focus. It's not that you have to do just one single thing for the rest of your life also, correct? But being able to kind of identify and then hone those talents is what is important. Because if you say writing, then it helps to kind of do a course where you can kind of, channelize that and bring it to better focus, right? So that's where we are. So we help you identify it, and we help you channelize and focus, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to earn a living out of whatever you're doing too.
I think there should be two aspects: making money, but also be happy with what you're doing. So these are really...
Absolutely. Yes. These are key. Because if just kind of, I don't know, maybe just scuba diving makes you happy, and listen, until you can actually, also maybe start taking classes and doing something with it, right? So I think it's a combination of both. Of course, some things we just follow as, as an interest, but also how do we then look at, where can passion and profession kind of find that connect?
Yeah. And I think before we recorded, we also said something about sports, that sometimes you're an athlete, but then an athlete lifespan can be short. So you need
to
think ahead.
Absolutely. So I work with a number of students who are like really good athletes and are competing at the regional and national level. So there's someone who is with me who is a professional skater, someone who plays cricket, another person who plays football. Okay. So while they are actively following their athletic pursuits, they're also trying to see how is it that going ahead, right? Once this lifespan is kind of, it is limited for an athlete, right? So what happens at that time? So there are numerous courses related to sports management, sports psychology, medicine, sports journalism, sports analysis, right? And there are also courses which are going to support you going ahead, right? So what we suggest is, as they're going, they can kind of do this side by side. So by the time they're ready, of course, the primary focus right now is on being on their athletics. But at the end of that duration, they also have something which is still close to the sport that they've loved and grown up kind of preparing for and being involved with. But also that's something that's leading to a profession which they can pursue after that. So that's really good. Yeah. And it's actually good to, let's say,
somebody is a cricket player, so if they work in the field of that, they have the knowledge and also the endurance that it takes to be that sport athlete. So I think sometimes they underestimate what they bring with their experience, with their sweat that they already did.
No, absolutely. Because they've already woken up every morning at 4 a.m. to get to practice. They've done the whole routine, right? So they know how it is, right? And that kind of experience, you can't explain it to someone. You can't just say, oh, this is how the routine would be, unless you've kind of lived through it yourself, right? And for someone who's kind of, and with most athletes, you have to start young. So from a very young age, you've spent all your time, and then maybe even completely moving away from sports is not something that makes them happy, because that's been their whole life, right? So something like this kind of brings it together, whether it's, so you're still keeping your passion for sport and then also bringing in a professional angle to what you can do with it.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. And let's shift a little bit to how did you get there? I mean, like, you're a woman, you're a mother, and it seems like you're fulfilling your dream. And for the audience who want to fulfill their dream, I think we said some people think like, okay, there is never a good time, there is never a bad time to start your own company. But also people think you start your company and the millions roll in. So tell us how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have two beautiful children. My daughter is 15. My son is 10. And I still remember just thinking back that I was about 21 or 22 when this idea kind of came to my head that I really wanted to become an entrepreneur. So I wanted to kind of go ahead and start my own company and do something. But honestly, Susan, it took me 16 years from that point before I was even able to start it, right? So I have actually lived in different countries. It just so happened that I moved around quite a bit. I was in Germany for a few years. I was in the US for a few years. I was in London, in Nigeria. And life just kind of had its own trajectory where it kind of... So it took me much longer to really actually begin, but it was always something that I wanted to do. Okay. So that dream and that desire was always there. And I said, it's okay. This is what I have to. And it's okay if it takes a little longer by the time I get there. I even got married very young. In India, we kind of have a system where we get married a little earlier. So I did that, and I wasn't able to I did my graduation, but I didn't get to do my postgrad because I got married at that point of time. So later on in life, after both my kids were born, I went back to school. I got an MBA in international business. A few years later, I did a specialization from Harvard, and I upskilled myself because I had kind of had to take breaks along the way. But when you have to kind of get back into the workforce, it's important to kind of be able to do that. And though I've always wanted to start on my own, there was always this hesitation, right? Because I was like, okay, maybe I have to have the perfect business plan. I need to know exactly what to do. I need to kind of, have the right idea. And bit by bit, that hesitation kind of makes you stop many times. And I could have started maybe 5 years ago, but I kept saying, okay, let me give it some more time. Let me earn some more. Let me build up a larger capital. Like, there were 100 excuses that I could think of till one fine day, I just sat myself down and, I've spoken about my business so much. So even my kids, so my son always refers to like, Mama, when your business starts, and Mama, when your business, and I was like, so I was like, this is something that's been a dream for like all of us in a way. And then I said, that's it. I'm not going to wait anymore. This was about 2 years ago. And I said, I'm just going to take the leap. And it works. And in whatever sense, at least you've made that effort and tried. And I am so thankful that it has really kind of started. And But as with any business, it takes time, right? You have to establish yourself. You have to build your network. You have to build your credibility. But it's been a really interesting journey so far. And for me, I had to do a lot of, I did various courses. I lived in different countries. I did various roles and jobs. And somehow all of that came together when I decided to start the business that I wanted, because I truly believe that learning is lifelong. Okay. All of us are constant learners, and we're all gonna. So today, when I am able to kind of shape and hone like the future leaders of tomorrow, that for me is really something I'm proud of. And I find extremely satisfying, So so that's where I kind of came to kind of, in that sense, living my dream.
And maybe you had to wait for your name, right? So your name, the company name is ASPIYER. Tell us, I think this is so cool.
Okay. So the origin, so ASPIYER, of course, is aspirational, because all of us are kind of, want to reach for the stars, you want to get somewhere. So that was the thought. But I had always decided that if and when I did start my own company, I wanted it to be personal, and I wanted it to have our names in it. So my son's name is Aditya, starts with the letter A, and my daughter Sanjana starts with S, and mine is Pooja, so P. So we kind of played around. We tried an SAP and a PAS. We did a whole lot of combinations. My last name is also Iyer. So we finally, with a lot of brainstorming, got around to this thing where, so my company is now called ASPIYER. That's ASPIYER. So it has all of our names in it, and it's a really personal thing, and the kids love it. They're like, oh, the company's named after us.
I think this is so clever. First I thought it's your last name, but I didn't know the ASP comes from those letters.
From that, yeah. So that was always, I put that in my mind that, when it happens, I wanted to kind of have a little bit of us also in it. So.
Oh, that's nice. It's also, you said you would talk to women who are re-entering the workforce.
Yes, absolutely.
So maybe for the audience, can you just give a little background on how it works in India? And you said already you marry young, so how does it work? Correct. So we can learn from you.
Sure, absolutely. So in India, it's also been a system where people tend to kind of marry earlier as compared to maybe Western counterparts, if we could call it that. And there's a lot of, a lot of us live in joint families, or we live together, right? The nuclear families is more a newer concept that's coming into today's India, but in the past it was. So a lot of times women kind of took a break to kind of take care of their families, take care of their children from the workforce. So this is something that does happen many a time, and what happens is, so these could be bright young students who have started, really topped their exams, done really well. Maybe they start working fresh out of college, but then for whatever reasons, right? Maybe they decide to take a break from work, and invariably what happens is, at a little later stage, once the kids kind of grow up and a little more settled, they suddenly like this emptiness that they sometimes feel. They're like, okay, where am I going to find my own identity and, do something for myself in that sense? So I also work with a lot of women in that space, because for me too, I deliberately made a choice to kind of be home when the kids were younger, because I felt it was really important to kind of give my children that time and lay that foundation, right? Because so I took some time off myself, and it was a bit of a struggle getting back into work after that. Because if you've been gone for a certain duration, and any of us who have taken a break or a sabbatical know that, right? It's not because everything is changing so quickly, right? So technology is moving, right? So everything is so rapidly changing. So now I also do work with women to help see. And also the thing is that when you've been away from a while and you're constantly evolving as a person, you're constantly changing. Maybe you did your bachelor's in microbiology, but who you are today may not be the person that wants to go back to a job like that, correct? So we go through identifying, from the point that you're at today, what would be the best thing that you can do, correct? What would be the kind of time commitment that you have? What are the kind of professions that would suit you? And practically speaking, what is the kind of upskilling that you need? There are numerous online courses available now. Like there are so many platforms where you can do something. All universities offer online modules. So once they kind of decide what is a good path for them to follow on, then I always suggest some amount of upskilling to become a little more relevant, right? Because all said and done, you have taken a break from the workforce, so to speak. And once they complete that course too, then they're absolutely set, and they begin, and their new trajectory is ready in that sense. So that's how it works. And I think also having that personal experience, having gone through those breaks myself, it's a lot more relatable because I know how it is. And I think wherever, not just India, but I think all of us at different parts, in different parts of the world, at different parts of our time, end up having to take a break for one reason or the other, correct? So how do you then, realign and refocus?
Interesting. And I have one final question, like how can you be so motivated? Like you seem very passionate and you have learned so much, and give us your secret.
So the thing is that I love life. Okay. And I'll tell you what. So the thing that with students and with youngsters, they are just so full of energy, so full of ideas, right? I think as you get older, there's a certain amount of cynicism or you get a little more jaded, So when you talk to just adults all the time, what happens is there's a certain kind of mindset that's already set in because of the multiple experiences that you go through, right? But with kids, they come in with this completely fresh perspective, right? They're looking at everything with a new pair of eyes. Everything can be questioned. Everything is a new possibility. And it's like they have their whole life ahead of them, right? So I love that energy and enthusiasm that's there with students, right? And that really drives me.
Yeah.
Because that for me, and then to know that I'm actually playing a part in shaping that child's future, correct, into a direction that's going to lead him or her to success in the future is really what kind of motivates me a lot.
That's nice. And some people say like, oh, they're young and they complain. But I think I also like to work with students. They give me energy and we can learn from each other. And you could provide your experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's very true. Because I mean, as with anything, right? There are two sides to the coin. So some people are going to say, oh, kids don't know what they want and think. So that's also one side of it. But that's okay. I think all of us, Susan, go through an exploratory journey. We're not just kind of born into knowing who we're going to be or what is it that we're going to do. And for many of us, we've all tried our hands at different things, right? We've tried different professions. We've tried different jobs. And over a while, we've kind of found our space and found our area of thing, right? So what I feel is let them explore, let them try. And I feel unless and until you kind of get your hands wet, if you could call it that, like till you really try something, you're never going to know for certain if you like it or not, right? By going through like a career guidance experience, children are able to, through internships, through shadowing experts, through learning from mentors, they're able to get a better understanding of a profession. You don't have to, completely study and go start working. And then after the first 2 weeks, then realize that, oh my God, I didn't want any of this. Right?
Yeah.
So there are ways now. Do a short-term course, right? If you're thinking of maybe business analytics, you're not too sure what exactly goes into it. Do a 2-week course. There are numerous courses available. And just sitting down and putting that will give you a great idea. Or if you're talking about you love photography, you want to start maybe a YouTube channel, start it, right? Begin that process because it's so much easier to just talk about it theoretically. But when you actually sit down and you actually make that one video or you make that podcast, you realize the amount of effort that goes into it, right? Yeah. And then it kind of opens your eyes to the reality of, is this something I can see myself doing long term, correct? Yeah. So that's where it is.
Oh, thank you so much. This was so inspirational. Lifelong learning has always been a topic for me, so we shouldn't stop learning. Thank you so much, Pooja.
Thank you so much, Susan, for having me on the show. Really appreciate it, and have a lovely day ahead.
Yes, you too. Thank you. How wonderful to catch up after such a long time. It felt like we saw each other yesterday. Take it from the Ironwoman. We have episodes every Monday, every Wednesday. And don't forget to get your Loopy, getloopy.com. You get 20% off your first order. Take it from the Ironwoman. See you soon.